I've got 1:33 for a 1:30 meeting, so let's go ahead and call a meeting to order so we can move on into business and not drag everybody out too terrible long today. Cliff is still a little under the weather. He's actually protecting us more than himself probably here. He sent his worthy compatriot here to work with us today, Miss Mallory. So we've got like 4 different items on our agenda. Mallory's gonna call Cliff and put him on speaker, I'm assuming.
Yes.
And with that, Mallory, you wanna try to catch him?
Hello, Mr. Chitwood. We are here at the Planning and Development meeting, and Mr. White has called us to order.
Can you hear us, Cliff?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. You got Carl.
Carl, you just come through that door. I can hear you outside that door.
Which one, straight or left?
Straight, I believe.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, left.
Sorry, okay. Okay, Cliff, sorry. We had Carl from NextERA beeping in. He's joining our meeting now.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. Important meeting in order.
It says red. No, on the
Thank you,
outside it just says
Carl.
red
Sorry
Red
about
Cross.
that.
Just anywhere you wanna sit.
Okay, Cliff. First up on the agenda is the Frigotec.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry I can't be there. I wish I could have avoided this. Frigotec is a local company. We have cooperated with them in expansions before. Ted Smith is the Chief Operating Officer. Frigotec is a German company that makes cooling machines of all types. They have a solid business in Mississippi County, obviously, with business with cranes at both Newport and Big River Steel, and many with everything in those mills produces heat, and most of them have to have some type of cooling system internally. About 8 years ago, Frigotec hired Ted and was preparing to move him to Houston to set up a location there. But Ted and Lana are good Mississippi County patriots. Ted convinced the company that they could do just as well in Blytheville. They bought a building, and we helped them expand from 2 workers to 10. Now they have an opportunity to bring more manufacturing from Germany to Blytheville with an expansion of roughly 30 jobs. And they're interested in the Snyder building. We purchased the Snyder building about 8 years ago after a year where we had literally been asked 9 times that year to turn in an existing building that we did not have. I made the recommendation to my board and then the former court that we purchase that building so we would have something in our inventory. And then we stopped, as they would have it, we stopped getting requests for existing buildings, or they moved on to such large buildings that it didn't qualify. We paid $611,000 for the building. Our expenses are not negligible keeping it up. We have a pretty significant gas bill in the winter. And so what I have asked is the proposed contract with Frigotec would be that we will sell them the building for $500,000. We will grant them $12,500 per job of the 30 jobs. That would bring them up to $375,000. And if they don't do anything, then they would owe 4 suite of offices, but mold has gotten in there, and it's bad, and it all needs to come out and be substantially rebuilt, which has been, on the times we have shown the building, that's something that everyone has said would have to happen. So then we've agreed to grant them credit up to the $500,000 for improvements they make. So essentially, we'll be transferring the building to them, at no cost, if they do create the 30 jobs and then make further investment in the building. And, the Great River Board agreed that this was something we should do. 30 jobs is not necessarily, by any means the end of what Frigotec would do. They still have substantial manufacturing in Germany with products coming to the U.S. So with that larger building, it would enable them to continue to expand in the future. And I think with, and my board agrees with me that with people like Ted and Lana running the company, we can expect further expansion.
Cliff, what is just so I understand, what's the significance of the 12,000 per 30 jobs which equals 375,000, if we're going to just grant them the $500,000 and sign over the building? I'm a little confused as to what's the purpose of layering both of those in there instead of just giving them the building.
I guess the reason we want the jobs, we want them to have an incentive to create the jobs.
Right.
And so that's why the 30 times 12. And then the other is just to take account and give them credit for the investment they're going to have to make in the building to make it usable for their needs.
Okay. So I'm just wondering why we wouldn't just give them. If 500,000 divided by 30 jobs is like 16,600 a job, I'm just confused as to where the 125
They
is.
have to make improvements to the building.
So the 125,000 is the trade for them making the improvements in the building. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we're giving them $375,000 for creating jobs, and then we're writing off the 125 because of the improvements they made.
Correct.
Okay, but then we'll be, in essence, when all of that's done, we'll be deeding them the building over 100%, right?
Correct.
Okay.
But only after it's.
But only after they've made the improvements and created the 30 jobs.
That's right.
Okay.
And we will lease the building to them for $10 a year, triple net, which means they will take over the insurance, repairs, property tax, all expenses connected with the building.
Okay. So do they have a time frame on that? How long they're going to take to create those 30 jobs?
They think within about 2 years.
Okay, so that's pretty quick.
Yeah.
And the way it's crafted, Cliff, I think theirs will be the same way, right? They will have to create 30 positions, not 30 jobs over 2 years. So, like, they couldn't say, well, I hired her, so she was 30.
Right. It's not attached to people, it's
Right,
attached to
it's attached to
positions.
Like
position.
all of them.
Right.
Yes.
Slots.
Yes.
30 slots.
Yes.
But the county would hold title to the building until, what happens, Cliff, if 4 years from now they haven't reached the 30 job level? What happens to the building?
Well, we've set. Let's say they put 400,000 in, and still only have 20 jobs. Then we just run those figures and base that off the $500,000 selling price. And if they're under, they owe us, and if they're over, it's still their bill.
Is that being put into the contract as a petition clause that they actually have to do after so many years? Like I said, if they haven't created the jobs, but they've made the improvements, then they will owe us for the difference in the building. Is that going to be part of the contract, or is that just being assumed?
No, this would be part of the contract.
What's the time frame on that? Is it 2 years or 3 years? What time frame are you putting on that clause?
4 years.
4, okay.
So in essence, any money they put into the building comes off the $500,000 purchase price.
Yes, sir.
Well, or up to the 125.
Up to the 125, correct?
Correct.
Guys, it's been a little burden around our neck on a
Oh,
monthly
yeah.
basis because we're heating it in the winter, we're cooling it somewhat in the summertime.
Insurance.
We're paying $500 a month approximate just for lawn care. Every month. I approve the bills on that and I just get tired of, how much money we're spending and would love for somebody else to take over those monthly bills.
Yeah, it's been empty a long time.
Our bonds wants to mow the lawn.
What's the projected salary for?
Cliff, do you know the salaries on those positions?
They're between, $17 to $21 an hour.
35, 40,000, 45 plus benefits.
Plus benefits,
Yes, ma'am.
So total, what do you think and you may have said this, what do you think it costs us annually to upkeep and pay the bills for the Snyder building?
I wouldn't be surprised if it's not $20,000 a year.
Could easily
I
be.
bet so. By the time you pay insurance and
And that's what I was
everything, I would venture to guess that it's probably at least
Is that in the
20.
range? Yeah, that's right, Chad.
I mean, well, basically,
I
I
don't
would,
know if your utilities and lawn care.
Yeah, and insurance is always more expensive if it's into town.
and I mean, think about that over 4 years, that's actually
The insurance by itself is probably 12 to 15.
Wow. Then you tack on.
I mean, there's really no downside here. I mean, worst case scenario, they're gonna make improvements in a building that's coming back to us.
Right.
Put a lien on it.
And,
And that's worst case scenario.
do-
Right. Okay. Alright, so I'll make a motion that we proceed with this contract as presented from Greta for Frigotec.
Got a motion and a second that, we approve the Frigotec project as presented by Cliff. Any other discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Got your Frigotec, Cliff.
Thank you, sir.
What about NextERA?
NextERA is a solar project. It will be the third large solar project in Mississippi County. It will go north. It will be located north of Louisville, primarily on the west side of the interstate. It's primarily on Mr. Story's property. It's a roughly $300 million investment, and they're asking for a 65% property tax abatement, which still gives us roughly the taxes on $100 million. And as the court has expressed approval of doing this on 2 previous projects, we're bringing this before the court to make a positive recommendation. The judge actually makes the abatement in his office as
Official
county,
capacity.
but he has asked in the past that the quorum court approve or not these abatements.
Okay, and we have Mr. Carl here with NextERA. I don't know, Carl, did you have some things you wanted to show the group, I guess?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Cliff, do you want to stay on while he shows them a few things?
I was gonna say, the bookkeeping.
The line is not. It's like 65% of your property.
No check.
It wasn't told.
Been coming.
Well, last time we missed the check, right?
I feel promotional for it. Cliff, you're missing out on the good. Sorry.
Yes,
thank you for
We're not used to people being so prepared about it.
I don't think so.
Chamber members already, they're already chamber members, like, they hit the ground running, so. I think Carl, he'll have to give us the rundown on the project details, he's about to tell us, to date anyways. They've changed over time, I think.
It has a little bit, yeah. So thanks everyone for having me here. My name is Carl Kremser. I'm the project director here for NextERA Energy Resources, and we are looking at a potential solar development here in Mississippi County. And I'd really appreciate if you all here just hear me out here, and then we can talk about all the benefits that will come to the community if we're able to work out an agreement. So just a little bit about NextERA. Who here has heard of us? Got 1, 2, 3. Okay, well, yeah, bear with me. I know you've heard this before, but so we like to pride ourselves that we are the largest company anyone's ever heard of. So we are actually the largest energy producer in the world. We are American owned, so we're based in South Florida, which is actually where I'm from. And I own both Arkansas and Mississippi states and all development, battery, wind, and solar in both states. So I'm out here at least 1 to 2 weeks a month between Arkansas and Mississippi. We operate in 38 states. That's now increased since this information. I believe this is dated like first quarter, so a few months ago. And we are generating close to 24,000 megawatts of power. That is tons of power to generate, and it can power many, many cities. To give you guys an idea of how big that is. And since the early 2000s, which is when we were roughly created, we've invested close to $100 billion in the industry. So we are pretty big, and the reason I'm telling you all this is not just to brag, it's to tell you that like when we come in and we tell a community that we're going to make a commitment, we actually act on it. You'll probably hear a lot of different developers, like community solar and things like where they're going to say, hey, I want to put solar panels on the roof, or like on a 1 acre plot next to a school or something, and all the benefits that that's going to bring. Most likely, that's just going to cost you guys money. When I come here, I'm actually on a utility scale roof, so we don't want to put solar panels on your roof or anything. We're looking at 1,000 to 2,000 to 3,000 acre sites, and it's we call it utility scale. So this is not something that your community is going to have to pay for. It's only going to bring money and jobs to your community. So some of the benefits of solar. Cost competitive, so it is a cost competitive form of energy. Obviously clean and reliable, so it's not natural gas, it's not coal, it's not oil or diesel. Creates lots of temporary jobs, so that's something that you'll all be interested in and this is primarily during construction. This project's current timeline is to start up, all things going well, mid-2025. The construction period is about 18 months, so bring that back, that puts you like end of next year, early 2024. When that would start, and in which time we would have, we usually estimate up to 300 temporary jobs for about 18 months. So, between hiring locally, we hire big national EPC companies to come in and do the work. We encourage them through contracts to hire locally. So that a lot of opportunities to get people locally if you're trained in construction and solar. And then if you aren't aware in the rest of the state, there's tons of renewable energy going on. So once you have your locals here trained up on how to do it, they'll be able to travel around and work on other sites around the state, and then bring that money back to Blytheville. Obviously land payments, so we work with different landowners, as Mr. Chitwood. We are currently leased with Story Family Farms, and we are finalizing the lease with other landowners nearby. Tax revenue, I know that is of large interest, as Mr. Chitwood mentioned. I'll come to that. I actually have a slide to tell you about some of the numbers. As an example, increasing local purchasing of goods and services, so obviously that's with the money and the jobs that we bring to the community. Then, there's, of course, going to be the benefits to the stores and different restaurants and bars around the area. And, of course, we do build into our contracts that we are to decommission the site. A very common question that we bring in, or that people have, is that, okay, at the end of the 30 to 35 year life of the solar farm, are we just going to abandon the panels that we've been out there in the farming fields? That is not what's going to happen. We have built into our land agreements that we are contractually obligated to remove the panels and restore the land to its original agricultural state. So that's all built into our project economics and what we commit to do as part of the project life cycle. Something that's not on this slide that I also like to mention, so in addition to the temporary jobs, we also, once this site is in operation, there's usually some permanent jobs that are created. We usually estimate 1 to 3 permanent jobs, and the kind of general scope of those jobs would be like maybe an admin assistant to work in the office. And then we have some sort of operations person that would like maybe operations / security, and then also maintenance. A lot of mowing. So a little bit more about NextERA Energy. So something else that we kind of pride ourselves in is our community relationships. So I don't know if you heard the chatter before, but we already are a member of the local chamber. We come get involved. Actually, a few, say back in February, was it when the tornadoes came through here? We actually came out and we gave $4,000 to the local food pantry, and we also came out and volunteered, helping them pack boxes and things for those families that were affected. I think there were 4 families, so we gave about $1,000 per family, as well as some of our team's time to come out and help. Some other examples of that, we actually have some other projects over in West Memphis, over in Crittenden County. We have 2 projects there in construction. We actually, back in January of this year, we gave $50,000 to a school for a STEM grant. So we do, like to promote schools and things that have renewable energy programs and other technical programs, and that's something that, if you don't get it one year, you can apply for it the following year, because it's kind of a rolling. We do this stuff every year. There's other food pantries and things around the state that we contribute to. So I know we have talked to everybody. If you guys ever heard of anything that's going to go on or that's coming up, just reach out to me, and I can get you guys in touch with the right people that can make these sponsorships happen. So talking about a little bit about us in Arkansas. I know the dots on the back here are kind of hard to see, and you guys can follow in the decks that you have. But you can see here, there's obviously Little Rock, then you have some yellow dots and some gray dots, and then Fort View, which is this proposed project. So the yellow dots are actually 2 projects that we've already built and are operating. So as I mentioned, we deliver on our commitments. This gray dot here, just to the northeast of Little Rock, that should be yellow, because that is a project we also built and is now operating. I believe it came online in December of this past year, so about 7 months ago. These 2 dots here, this is over in Crittenden County, as I had mentioned. Those are currently under construction, so those are supposed to come online end of next year. And then Fort View, so that's us. And here's some of the other projects. So we have the Chico and Stuttgart. So this is Chico, Stuttgart, and then Cersei is this 3rd one here that should be yellow. So, where in my town is it going to be? This is I-55. Here's Blytheville. So we're just to the north of town, and as Mr. Chitwood mentioned, we are mostly to the east of I-55. So and like I said, this may be a little bit in flux as we're still trying to secure the final pieces of land, but this is currently our proposed layout. And I know I'm talking a lot and really fast. If you have any questions, please just interrupt me. Otherwise, we'll obviously be able to talk to a lot of questions.
So these will be visible from the interstate? Is that
So,
right
somewhat,
up
there,
to the interstate?
yeah, somewhat. And there are setbacks that we'll follow. Yeah, we'll follow whatever is required by zoning and laws.
How many acres were you talking?
So this project in particular is 200 megawatts. We usually estimate about 8 to 10 acres per megawatt. So doing quick math, maybe under 2,000 acres, just under 2,000, 1,800-ish acres.
So between your project, Crooked Lake project, and the one at Osceola, we'll be looking at about 6,000 acres altogether.
I'm not familiar with those other two projects. Those are not us? Are those competitors, I'm assuming?
Some, yeah.
and they may be. Yeah, I don't know how big those other projects are. I know you do have one that's down kind of to the southeast. Is that near the steel plant? I've heard about that one.
Yeah, there's a small one that's operational now. There's two others that supposed to be in the work.
Okay. Yeah, and it may be. I can't speak to those.
Cliff, do you know anything about that? Mr. Neal's asking about the other solar projects underway. Are there any other ones?
Yeah, there are two more, and they're roughly in the same, so you're correct, Neil, it'll be between 4,500 and 6,000 acres, if all three of them build what they're considering.
Okay.
Can you talk about why this area was chosen as site?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a flat.
Yeah, so siting is actually a big question we get. So the main things that we look at when we're siting is solar development, obviously flat, so that's the first thing. Second is transmission. So for those of you that aren't aware, there's actually a transmission line that goes pretty much like right here. You can kind of see the corridor on the map, but it kind of goes from like southwest to northeast, just to the east of 55 here. So that is actually the line that we plan on tapping into. So when I say that, we actually literally cut into the line and build a substation specifically for this project, and that will be on our property.
Major transmission.
Yeah, so does everyone have an idea of the difference between transmission and distribution lines? So just a quick overview, distribution is like the single wooden poles that you kind of see maybe coming into your house or coming into residential properties. Transmission is generally going to be at least the double poles, and that just means they're higher voltage.
Are you considered is this a merchant project, or you have to buy a contractor?
So we try to sell the project.
I know you're selling a lot of this to energy.
Some of it. Well, so getting into a little bit of kind of the business side behind the scenes, a lot of the lines in this area are operated by Entergy, but that doesn't necessarily mean we have to sell it to them. Like we can sell to other C&I customers, for example, Amazon. We sell a lot of power to Amazon, and even though we're injecting the power onto Entergy's power lines, Amazon's actually getting the benefits of the project. So, but Entergy is of course a customer of ours as well. So, and we can talk about, I know once we get to the numbers and talking about tax abatement, I can explain how these projects work as far as like the competitive bid process, and just to educate everyone a little bit. Because I want this to be very transparent. I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm not a magician.
Yeah.
So please ask me questions. Like I want you guys to know as much as I know.
How do you keep it clean,
How do we keep it clean?
appearance-wise, without just growing up in weeds so that it blocks the sun?
Maintenance, yeah.
So you just mechanically mow?
That's right. Yeah, it's actually one of our biggest expenses of operation. So we assume several $100,000 a year go into mowing. We don't use chemicals and things. Obviously, that's not good for the environment. So it's strictly mowing, and we also plant grasses that don't grow as quickly and as tall, so that tries to minimize it. But we do plant, after we build, we plant because we want there to be grasses underneath the panels.
So are those maintenance jobs like mowing outside contractors that'll be available to locals?
That is right. That is that's one of those permanent jobs I mentioned.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars, you said?
Well, that's
I'm not
hundreds of
so
thousands of
knowing
dollars.
my lawnmower.
I told you he wanted to mow.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars is not just the mowing. There's other.
How about you got competition, huh?
You can have it, honey.
So you do have to be capable of taking on a few thousand acres.
Yes, I understand.
Judge, the other two projects that are ongoing in the county, have we done the 65% abatement already?
Yes.
One of them for sure.
Cliff, that might be an instant, have we done the 65% abatement for the other two projects or just one of them?
Well, I'm not 100% sure. I think
I don't think the one of them came to us for some reason, I only remember one.
I think it's the one.
This might be this might be this.
I brought them both. I brought, one of them was primarily on, the Rexel property.
Yeah.
And the other primarily on Overdorf property. But I think before we actually voted, which I think we voted on the Overdorf property, but then something, there was some kind of something that they delayed that, and it probably has to do with USC and the property, moving around.
Yeah, cause I remember the Crooked Lake one out of, at John is,
John,
I remember that one.
Yeah.
but I don't remember the other one either.
I think, Cliff, I don't know if that had anything to do with it or not, but I do know that several of the solar projects in Arkansas have been delayed because they're having trouble getting the panels.
That's right.
out of town.
Yeah, so I can speak to that a little bit if there's questions. So the short answer to that is it's outside of our control. There is some brilliant decisions that our president made at federal level, and that is causing a lot of logistics and importation issues coming from Southeast Asia. So there's a lot of this China talk going on and stuff, and our panels are actually made in Southeast Asia, but there's a claim made at the national federal level that certain components come from China, and they're trying to say, well, only X% of the panel construction should come from China. So they're doing essentially an investigation, and we are supposed to hear back on an official federal report out on August 29th, which hopefully, if favorable, should resolve a lot of those issues. But yes, that is an ongoing thing that is completely out of our control, unfortunately.
Is that also taking into account why there's such a lead time, like you said, that it's 2022 and you don't expect the project to be operational in 2025? That kind of works into that.
Yeah, a little bit. Part of it's permitting processes. We have to contract things. Also, like for example, I'm here in front of you all today trying to talk about tax abatement. So a lot of that lead time is us trying to finalize our economics as well. So, and I definitely can talk more of the numbers here in a second. Yeah, a lot of it's just kind of preparation, design. We have, engineering takes 6 to 8 months for a project like this, and we can't break ground until a lot of that engineering is already done. So looking at some of the project specifics, I know Mr. Chitwood had mentioned close to $300 million. So our current estimate is right around $280 million. When we see the actual tax abatement, whether it's an ROI or the actual bond itself, I think we're going to put a little bit extra, like in the neighborhood of $320 million. And just the only reason for that is because the way these IRBs work is if we end up spending a little bit more, as everyone can imagine, the economy's going up. Prices are constantly increasing. If we were to spend more than what you all approve in that bond, then we'd have to come back and ask for a reapproval. So we're just putting a little extra cushion in case the economy forces us to spend more. 200 megawatts, as I'd already mentioned, we'll get to this a little bit more detail on this, on the $16 million in estimated tax revenue. So that's obviously a big change from the current ag tax revenue that you all are getting. About 1,500 acres I had mentioned, so 1,500 to 1,800 likely. And the temporary construction jobs, a lot of this I already had mentioned. Any questions on the project specifics? Okay, so diving into some of the monetary benefits to the community. So this is just a simple before and after table, and just mind you, this is an example. I have not run the actual numbers yet, per the millage rates. This is a number from another county that we're doing business in here in the state of Arkansas, but all this is saying is an estimate of current ag use of the land, your estimated taxes by jurisdiction. You have school, county, and city generally. And this would be an estimated average annual payment. And then if you estimate this over 35 years, which is what our project life cycle is, that would be a total of just over $400,000 over 35 years. Versus after our improvements, you'd go from 400,000 to over 16 million. So and this is with the abatement that we are requesting from you all today. So you can see order of magnitude, the increase in value and benefit monetarily that this would bring to the community. And this obviously does not count us, coming and contributing, whether it's sponsorships to schools, food pantries, anything like that. So this is just pure dollars. And just to wrap up the presentation, it's something we do, we have a whole marketing team, so once we do come to an agreement with the community, we set up websites, and we also set up Facebook pages, so you can take your choose. But really what these will be for is just following the project, so for those of you interested, you can join, just sign up with our Facebook, or not sign up, just visit the Facebook page, and you'll be able to follow construction and progress. When our teams come in town, we'll try to go to like the local restaurants and things and take pictures, so you can just kind of follow our team as we go around the state and work with y'all. And this is me and my colleagues' direct contact information, and that is my phone number and email, so if you call, my phone right over there is gonna ring. So, like I said, I'm not trying to hide anything. You're not gonna get some corporate 800, number or anything. That's going right to me. Actually, she has my number, so she can vouch for it. So, that's me, and that's what we're proposing in the community. One thing I would like to mention about why we're asking for the tax abatement. So just a quick overview of how these solar industry projects work. So as you can imagine, the solar industry, just renewable in general, is getting very, very competitive. So there are what that means is there are tons of so we're the biggest company. There's tons of smaller companies that are coming in the area and they're trying to compete with us. So how these projects work, you can equate it to something like if you wanted to get a new roof on your house. So if you wanted your house to be new roof, what are you gonna do? You're gonna go home and call 20 different roofing contractors and get prices, right? One guy's gonna tell you 5,000, another 10, another 15,000, and you're probably gonna take the guy that either has the lowest price, or maybe if you have a buddy and he says, well, I can't give you 5,000, I'll give you 7,000, and then we'll get some other perks or something. So we essentially have to do this when Entergy or someone they release an RFP, a request for proposal. And then they have 50 different solar developers come in and they submit a price. And we say, hey, I can give you this many megawatts for X price. And then they go through a couple months of evaluation and they actually have to choose the lowest and best price that they want to choose from each bidder. So the reason I'm asking for this is because we get this abatement, and it allows us to hopefully lower our price, assuming that we get some abatement. And that allows Entergy or Amazon, whoever is taking these bids, to hopefully choose us because we have a lower price. If they don't choose us, then we can't build the project. So really what it comes down to is, if we can't build the project, then we're stuck here. And if we can build the project, then that's the money that the community's gonna get. So, and obviously the lesser of an abatement that gets approved, this number, sure, it goes up a little bit. But if that causes us not to win the project, then you're back here where you started anyways. So it's kind of a cost economic analysis we have to think about when we're going through these abatements. So, any questions?
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
After the abatement, you're showing $80,000 to the county. That's spread out over 35 years, is that correct?
80,000? No, so, sorry. The ones right here, so these 3 or 4 lines, I see school district, county, city, and then total. Those are the estimated annual numbers. And then this last line here, I've essentially just taken the 482 and multiplied it by 35 years, by 35.
And I know the schools work a little bit differently. What is it, if they collect more?
They get about 80%.
No, I'm just talking about though, that 400,000, that wouldn't necessarily go to, end up in school coffers, would it?
400,000, well,
I think you might be talking about, doesn't a lot of the school tax money get pooled at the state level and then reallocated based on head count?
Yes.
Maybe that's, is that what you're talking about, Joe?
Yeah.
There's some
Yeah.
way that-
So this, yeah, so maybe this money, and that's kind of at the state level, I don't have control over that, but yeah, I think a lot of that money might get sent to the state and then reallocated, so each school may not necessarily see all of that money.
So if we're already topped out, then they may not see any of that money.
Well, that particular land, a lot of that's gonna cross two school districts, right? Looks like it on the map. One, Armor might be tapped out, but I bet Blavos not.
Armor, I don't, is that in Armor?
I can't tell how far it goes out. So that's the Blavos school district, and
How is Blavos not there?
I wouldn't think so.
Do you
Armor
think
was the only one. that-
Armor and Rivercrest are the two that are probably
We
the
have a
most
small district out by the new quarters and in the formula in Arkansas, there's a base amount and then you have to hold a certain millage. And if you exceed that, you have to send it to the state. And Armorell is the small district, the only one I know of. I don't think Blavos, I don't think they would.
I think that would benefit the Blavos school district. probably.
They'd like to have $400,000 a year.
That's what I was trying to tell you.
How far, I know y'all are such a large company, and you work mainly with large, customers.
Generally, we do have, so remember I mentioned the projects right here? So these two under construction, one of those is right next to West Memphis, we actually sold that power to the Jonesboro Municipal Utility, which is all the way up here. So some are small, some are large.
Do you market all the way down? Small industry?
Yeah, I mean, if they're, we try to say, if we're gonna construct a project of 200 megawatts, we would probably try to sell it in at least 50 megawatt increments. So, they'd have to be willing to take a certain number of megawatts. I don't know if we're gonna take like 5 megawatts out of 200. But yeah, we do work with whoever is willing to buy the power at the price that we can offer.
There's still some development. That's all good.
Is that all owned by the same landowner?
No,
What you're looking at, that's multiple landowners, I would think.
Two to three.
Is that some of Porter's properties? It looks, yeah, it's gotta be some Porter land.
Mr. Story.
Yeah, Stewart Hamley is the
The old
primary.
border of state,
Okay.
the old dirt bench.
Okay.
Can you go back to the footprint, please?
Yes, sir.
Peggy had a question. She was looking to see how far to the east it went.
It's right before the airport, see the airport
For
there?
the airport, that's about a quarter mile.
So it does go all the way up to, Riverland Plantation, correct? Riverland Plantation's on the south side?
Maybe you have it in this.
No, it doesn't.
It was in
No,
Johnny's
no,
land,
it's not.
It's not.
No, it does not go to Riverland Plantation, because that's on around the beginning.
I'm interested, you have some that is, west of interstate.
That's right.
That will bump right up against some residential areas, will it not?
This,
Yes.
just right here, you mean?
Just right, okay.
A little bit, yeah. More so up here, but we do have additional setbacks required for residential areas. I've actually already visited that area and talked to some people that live in there, and we haven't heard anyone being opposed to having solar panels in the area.
Where is?
Didn't you say you're actually from there?
Yeah, I grew up in the neighborhood just north.
So where's the subdivision behind Walmart? Is that outside of this?
I think it's up there to the
This
north.
is very much.
See it, there it is.
Okay. So
Metal
it's
lawn
between,
or-
so it is purchasing that land between Walmart and that subdivision?
Yes.
Okay, that's why I was trying to figure out, okay.
That little niche out of the city in there behind Walmart, that's the.
You know, where you're turning to go, so it stops
This
right there where you turn
Yes.
and go there.
So would Walmart be a potential customer, are they purchasing in the future?
No, because that Walmart would be more of a customer for a smaller group, where they they might want panels on their roof or something, but that's not what I'm here to do.
Like Mississippi County Electric Co-op would be could be a potential customer, yeah, so your
Who would be
co-ops,
potential-
your.
Well, that's why Neil's asking. Like Neil's wheels are spinning.
Well, I'm in a
right
little
there.
bit of conflict of interest.
Right.
But
I
your
mean, both sides.
Your co-ops can purchase energy from.
Yeah, so another thing I wanna mention here, you know, so we'll get into the discussion of abatement, I'm sure, when we talk about the number of the number of years and the percentages. So, for this county specifically, and this, I'll just ask everyone as friends and potential business partners that stays in the room, because I'm not supposed to tell you this, but we do have other projects potentially proposed in the county. So that being said, you know, when we talk about whether it's 30 years versus 25 or 20 and 65% or 50% or whatever, you know, if we are able to get favorable economic terms and agreement here, you might be able to get this times 3. If times 3
There
or
might
times
be
4.
other projects to follow.
I can tell you I am looking at more projects in the county. Don't tell anybody, but I can tell you I am.
We got a lot of land and it's all flat.
Yeah, and we've already got that land on the contract.
Okay.
So we're still evaluating the land, but you know, if we become a partner, then you know this will be multiples, not just one.
What's our downside? If you saw a downside for the county, what would be the county's downside?
Honestly, there isn't a whole lot of downside. You know, maybe you could argue that during construction you're going to have, like I mentioned, hundreds of temporary jobs, so that might put a small burden on the small businesses and restaurants and things as far as having to feed and house people. But other than that, once that clears out, you know, then there's next to no requirement by like the fire department. You know, these panels are just going to sit out there and do nothing. So they're very low fire risk. There won't be any police risk. Like it's not going to burden your community as far as resources go. It's pretty much just going to sit there and be quiet.
Coffee shop talk, the really big concern, coffee shop talk,
Sure.
just the cleanup in 30 years.
Yeah. And that's something.
So as long as
That's the big talk.
And that's in our landowner agreements. I know everyone asks that, and in our landowner agreements, I could show you a sample one if y'all are interested, but it specifically says at the end of the lease term, we are obligated to clean up that. And I can tell you for a fact, in my project economics, we include millions of dollars to we call it decommissioning. So essentially pulling all that stuff out of the ground and getting rid of it and returning that land back to its original state.
I read an interesting article about a month ago that, and I don't mean this as negative, it's just a question.
Yes, sir.
But California, which took the lead in solar, they're getting to the end of the life of some of the panels now. And they've discovered that you can't just put them into landfills.
The panels?
The panels.
Yeah.
They have to be processed. There's some elements in them that are considered hazardous. So the solar industry is gonna have to come up with some way of disposing of all these panels.
And
30 years from now.
A lot of that technology can be, call it revamped or so. So, you know, we can, like for example, the wiring, you can melt down that wire and make new wire. As technology advances, you know, the solar panels they'll likely be able to be melted down and reused as well.
It's gonna take a melting process from the article I read.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to be negative, I'm just saying that there is going to, you know, everything has its upside and downside. Solar has upside, but there are some downsides that are coming into play now.
Of course. Yeah. No, I definitely agree. You know, you could maybe equate it to like batteries or something, right? So batteries, obviously a lot of good upside, but they are toxic in the end game when you're trying to get rid of them. So, you know, it's something that the industry is going to be working through.
I thought there's housing, like some apartments that were gonna go behind
There
them.
was at one time, but I don't
Did
think
they not
ever-
ever buy the land?
I don't think they ever made an agreement with the land.
Well, the
Was
church,
it maybe in here?
no, that belongs to the church. They bought that to build in the church, and then they decided not to, and it's, what's that?
Yeah, well, I know, I've met several times with the mayor and Mr. Rickash, and he mentioned that they were potentially talking about putting an apartment complex or something in there.
Maybe now.
But I'm not sure if that's moving forward or not. So I think they said they had an option agreement on the land, but that option expired, and that was maybe think I met with Mr. Ash 2 weeks ago, and the mayor as well. So, it didn't sound like that was finally moving forward.
Surprised Rick's not here.
I think
He's on
church is
bus.
wanting to,
Okay, yeah, I mean, he knows who I am. I've known him half a dozen times
church
probably.
wants to sell their own.
Mhm. They do.
So y'all are leasing all that,
Oh,
you're not purchasing.
That's right, yeah. We offer both. I have some land down kind of in central Arkansas where we're buying a lot of it. That's actually where I was yesterday. I was out in Lee County, Lee and St. Francis County. They actually just granted me the full 30-year, 65% payment. And yeah, we're actually buying all that land.
I don't know anything about his numbers, but I know some numbers on the others, and you can't all afford to sell it. The lease are so attractive.
They're attractive. I mean, but to get $10+ million on day one, that speaks for something too.
Earlier, you said something about it's gonna be somewhat visible from the interstate.
Yes, I mean, there will be, I'm not sure exactly what the setbacks are. I think from highways, it might be 75 feet or so. So, it's not gonna be right on the interstate. I think the highway, right of ways are usually about 50 feet, like off the shoulder. So it'll be off of that. I mean, you'll definitely be able to see it, but, it's not gonna be on like 20 feet from the highway or anything. So I know a lot of people are worried about like glare from drivers and stuff. There's been a lot of like research on that, and there's no glare to drivers on the road.
And I did read on your website or on one of your Facebook pages here that it does not negatively impact like property value next to it
That's right.
so far.
Yeah, there's been tons and tons of studies. That's another question we get, and there's tons and tons of studies that cannot prove that it reduces property values for neighboring residential areas.
I think the appearance of it and making sure that it's maintained is really the biggest con for me in my mind, is that why a community would question it, is that they would wanna make sure that it doesn't become an unsightly mess.
I passed by one, fairly often, it's not in the city county, but it's not low.
No,
Not-
Not
not-
anything?
Yeah, most of the ones that
So is this a 35-year project, so after 35 years is where you're saying that you'll?
That's when, so at the end of the project life, we would either, well, depending on what our landowners wanna do, because our leases are usually 30, I think they're 30 years plus 2 5-year extensions, so we can get it as long as 40 years. But at the end of that, then we would look at either, obviously decommissioning the project, or option 2 would be, if technology and cost allow, we could revamp the project, so put all new technologies and things on it, and then hopefully re-sign with landowners and continue producing for another 30 years.
Lots can happen. So that time frame starts when the panels are in full swing, so you're talking about that 35 years starting in 2025?
That's right, May. May is our current month. As I mentioned, with all the federal things going on, that could slide to the right, but if all things go well, it would be mid-2025.
Carl, I would like to say, thank you for coming and giving us this presentation and offering the information that you've offered, because we've already passed one of these without near this much involvement, but with all the questions unanswered.
Yeah.
So you're giving us a real opportunity here. We appreciate that.
That's my goal.
So guys, what do you think? We've got a 65% abatement request on the floor.
Well, I think what you just said, we've already given it to, I guess, considered a competitor without them providing near the information that we have, and 35% of something is better than 100% of nothing, for lack of better terms.
Well, it actually increases value to the county in terms of tax collections considerably
Right.
over what we're getting in agricultural property.
Not to mention guaranteed money for the landowners and other trickle down effects. So,
Does it need form of a resolution?
we do a resolution since this is, and then how we do it, since the judge actually
Yes.
does this as his official capacity, but we do it as a resolution of support,
Yeah,
correct?
his official capacity is county court.
Okay.
So I think the goal here would be approve the ROI, and then next month I would sit before the quorum court and either offer a similar presentation or we have to go through a process of reading the actual bond. So there's like a 10-page bond. I just did this last night in Lee County. So we have to read, like, I'll have our third-party counsel. So this is from Little Rock. She would come and read the full abatement, and we'd go through 3 hearings in the same meeting. And that's where the actual approval would happen. But the ROI would be a recommendation from y'all.
Okay, so, I make a motion that we approve moving the resolution to the full court, as presented today.
Second. I looked at him just
Yeah,
trying to keep you out of the.
yeah, he needs to say it, he probably,
I'm gonna recuse
yeah, he
myself
needs
on
to,
this,
yeah.
because
Okay.
I had a conflict.
So guys, we got a resolution, a motion made to send a resolution to the full court in support of the county court, approving a 65% tax abatement on the building of this, project. Any further discussion?
You know, I like to see for the next couple of years, I know I'm not gonna be on here, but I'd like for y'all to be as sharp as he is.
You're kidding me. You don't really show it, I ain't getting
Now, I'm talking about this young man right there.
I just happen to
Because,
be.
when you bring up something to Cliff, okay, you don't have now a person smart enough to go and sit outside of Cliff and to go and listen to this, what he's saying. Because, you know, I've been on this 20 years ago, this stuff, you've been building this up for a while. And I go everywhere, I have judges, I be nosy, I go everywhere. And I listen to these, you know, how you bring this. And I would like to see, you know, there's always somebody here. Okay, so we got to judge the head. So if we could, when people get elected, they got to do their job, to work with the judge. Okay, so the judge can't go every place at one time. So we know the county always has money to send anybody somewhere they want to go and improve what's gonna go on in the court. And so, cause we ain't got nobody living in the country no more. So you're gonna see things coming in here in Mississippi County that been here a long time, wanted to come a long time ago and they wouldn't come. And now, see all these steel mills coming in here, everything running to Mississippi County. So we got to have people gonna be able to think outside the box. Because you might see all of us here, and then you go somewhere else, you might see 9 of us there and 2 of y'all. But if you ain't never been around and deal with them, listen to their ideas, and then you can go somewhere and be on top. But if we don't, somebody else gonna always be a step ahead of us. You know what I mean?
You're right. I'm trying to put you guys on
But
the edge.
you'll see that I'm gonna leave it alone. But I know where you're coming from, and but I ain't gonna strain you to no kind of people. I'm gonna talk to you.
Guys, we got a motion and a second on the floor. We have a couple more items of business. With no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Fine.
We'll move this to the full court. Now, our next full court meeting isn't for a month, but the judge understands our support and cooperation, and I'm sure he'll be working very directly with you. And it's been very nice, a good presentation. Thank you. Seriously.
I appreciate that.
Very important.
Yes, very
My
much.
conflict
It
is the co-ops of Arkansas own today's power, which build projects too.
Yeah.
And it fell out.
Yeah, we actually talked to a lot of co-ops in Arkansas as well. Maybe that's not why you heard of us, right?
I've heard of you. You do, I read through that every day. You do a lot of business with energy.
Getting by itself, go bring a coffee in my life.
Hey, Cliff, are you still on the line with us?
Yes, sir.
Cool deal. We have approved, moving the NextERA, tax abatement forward, and our next item on the agenda is the housing needs assessment that you wanted to discuss.
Yes, thank you. The Great River Board, at our last, full session, voted to, commission a housing needs assessment, by a company, Novogradic. They're a national firm, and the price is $17,500. Great River will be paying for that themselves. lack of travel to, places that we consistently always went with trade shows and governor's trips and those type of things. So, what this study will do is something that several of the housing developers who are looking at Mississippi County have asked for, and the board decided it would be best if we did it, and that way we could make it available to all of them, local builders who are here and others who become interested. It will be a fairly comprehensive study of the primary market, which will be Mississippi County. They will look at Blythe, Manila, Osceola, Wilson, and then out in the county in general is a place to live. They'll do an economic analysis on the county and at the community level. They will analyze the future need for single family owner occupied housing, which is what the Work Here, Live Here program is about. They will do an analysis for multifamily rental and then an analysis of affordable rental housing with demand analysis for each of those uh, different aspects of the housing market. And this is really just reporting to you. I mean, I think in doing this, the board is carrying out what will be the will of the court. This will be a valuable study. It will take about 6 weeks for it to be completed. The firm is very well respected, and so it should be a good tool in our toolbox to help us in this most opportune moment we're ever going to have of actually getting serious housing starts in Mississippi County.
And Greta is paying for it.
Yes, sir.
So you're talking about like a feasibility study of where to put houses and what kind of houses?
Right. These studies are often used, well, they're used for multiple reasons. One is their demand, how much demand is there? And so it helps the developer when he goes to see his banker. And that's one of the difficulties we've had of attracting builders. Well, no, you don't build houses in Mississippi County. Why? Well, nobody's building houses in Mississippi County. And so it's easier to go to Jonesboro Fairfield, where everyone's building houses over there, so that must be a great market. And, while I don't think we will have the market to match that anytime soon, we do have the market. I mean, there is demand, and I believe this study will validate that and help the people who are interested in investing here a little easier.
For lack of better terms, Cliff, this is kind of like a second opinion for the builders. They're wanting somebody besides us telling them that we need housing, kind of correct? So that because we've got too much skin in the game. So we need a third party to explain to them why we need housing.
Yes, that's correct, exactly.
So you need no action from this committee on this housing needs assessment?
No, sir, just to inform.
Cool.
And now, the next one is a retail recruitment plan. Mallory is going to handle that. She's been more deeply involved in that. And then I have 2 more small things to report after we get through with that.
Sounds good.
Okay, I didn't have those 2 things, Cliff, on the agenda, so we'll just, did you have HDMI for everything?
Yes.
Ma'am, it's off to the left.
Have you guys seen this plan at all? Has anybody seen the retail recruitment plan at all? Okay, so my first day on the job, I spent in Birmingham, Alabama, with a company called Retail Strategies, and they had put together a recruitment plan for Mississippi County, Arkansas. It's paid for through the Delta Center at, the Delta Center for Economic Development at Arkansas State University. It's a very thorough plan, and when we left there, they handed us the plan and said, okay, well, we've given you all the tools to do it, and here it is, go do it. I'm like, okay, I'm not so sure about it, so I stayed around and talked with a guy named Clay about, continuing services with this plan and what that might look like, because I wasn't sure if I was gonna be able to carry the torch and who would be my support when I got here. And so I just wanted to kind of hear from him on what that looked like. I'll show you guys a little bit of the plan. I don't want to get into the weeds on this, but the board is supportive of this effort and hiring the firm to do this for us. It comes at a cost. It's $45,000 the first year, and we have to commit to 3 years, and for the 2 years following, it's additional $40,000 each year. And what I will tell you is, all of them will say manage your expectations, because it takes 12 to 18 months to get retailers comfortable with your community, get out there, get the message out there, get the land situated, and understand the community, the needs, and everything. So I emailed him yesterday and I said, well, you guys have done a lot of this already. I mean, they've done the study, because the proposal that he sent me with the first year, including the $45,000 up front, included all of this. And so I think what we'll be looking at is a little bit different scenario. But we wanted you to see this because the board is supportive. What I've got to do is rally support from our partners that will need to be at the table whenever they're here discussing what landowners to work with, what property makes the most sense. We'll need to hear from the mayors and our county judge on, what projects, what retailers. It would just be a committee of sorts, I think, we'll need to put together. But I'm working on letters of support right now from the chambers and others, just so that I know that I'm not getting into this huge project and have to do this alone. But I do think it is a good effort. So let me shrink this down because let's see what it's really showing here. So what they've done here is that they have identified retailers that fit our current demographic makeup, right? And I think some of these, obviously, we have some of them already, and we know they fit our market.
I think all of those are ones that we have now. Well, no, Papa John's isn't one. That's
well, then this might be what those. So let me get into the nuts of it, because this is not.
Okay, so yeah, I think that those are all ones we already have.
You know what?
What we have.
You know what?
Yeah.
I heard wrong one. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, you're not. Okay, here we go. 64 pages, not 2 pages. Okay. So they gave us a little bit background with their team, who they use for research. That's one thing you guys are not concerned with. What I want to show you is what they determined to be our trade area, custom trade area for the county. So as you can see, because people that live west of Lake City are going to shop in Jonesboro, we're not capturing them. Same thing with Dyersburg, same thing with Union, Leslie. And so they've identified this as our custom trade area. And what they do is, on the next page, they tell us this is the number of people we have at our custom trade. Well, in my mind, that's not a lot, but we at least know that if we're growing our rooftops, that number is just going to increase. So I think all this it all works together, and so that's why I wanted you to see this. Let me try to get to the actual retailers that they identified as potential for Blyville, Osceola. They broke out each community separately because we are different. I'm gonna send this to you guys because it's really interesting. So on the gap analysis side of it, it helps them uncover the numbers that are leaking outside of our community. So when I say our trade area doesn't capture Jonesboro, Dyersburg, Memphis, well, we're leaking a ton of that stuff, because they'll drive to Jonesboro for another service and they'll go to Lowe's instead of going to Blyville or vice versa. Something. They're gonna do all the things while they're outside the community doing anything. Okay, so what they've discovered is the total market supply for our trade area is 1,050,000,000. But our demand is about $150 million shy of that, and that's just for our trade area. So if you think about if we are creating a demand and we are growing our retail base, and we do start to capture some of these Jonesboro, Dyersburg, and West Memphis shoppers, well, this number grows. I'm just marking this. Here it is. And Cliff, please chime in if you want to. I'm just going through the presentation and plan that they gave us. They set us up with peer communities, and I thought this was interesting because Blyville, as you see, Dyersburg compare very similar. And you guys know what Dyersburg has compared to what we have as far as retailers and suppliers and things like that, servicers. So what they're saying is there's no reason why Blyville can't be an item. And they'll go after retailers like that to recapture some of those. So these were some of the prospects. Back to that.
Were those specific prospects for us, or were those just ones that they do business with?
These are specific prospects for us that fit our demographic and household income thresholds. So when I say demographic, it's going to be rooftops that they're counting and median household incomes. Those are the two primary things that they look at, and they do it within a 3 to 5 mile radius. So, Arby's is looking to locate on Main Street in Blyville, and they're looking at a 3 to 5 mile radius at rooftops and incomes. And I don't know what they're going to see, as far as that goes. They can demonstrate and illustrate a lot better what they need to see. Where I would know what normal they would want to see and need to see, other than here's a piece of property, here's the data around it.
And they already have established relationships
They have
with these.
relationships, they attend all the conferences, they do all the things, and actually have already started conversations with some of these guys. So they actually expressed that Starbucks shared interest in relocating here again. And they've decreased their footprint, obviously, because people aren't going inside as much. And you'll see that a lot with the smaller retailers and fast food retailers, Wendy's. I'm sure the new Wendy's will have a smaller footprint than the older one. TJ Maxx, they felt fit our demographic in Blyville. Or any of the TJ Maxx companies. I don't know if you guys know who those are, but Chick-fil-A. Okay, so, all that to say, this is a 3-year commitment. We're still working through the details on the contract and the cost. Just given what I told you guys earlier about them already going through a portion of the study and the analytics side of it, I think that we could get a discount up front, but I don't wanna carry this forward without support and everybody being able to say, we support this recruitment plan and, the effort, because I think there's gonna be times when I'll have to call on people. Whether it be for find out who the property owner is, or to find out if we can do something creative to help someone get a project over the finish line, or whatever it may be. I just want you guys to be aware and have some dialogue from you guys, and know that this is a direction that you guys wanna go.
Well, I think this is definitely along the lines of some of the smaller projects that the last time we went to vote, that people are kind of wanting. This kind of falls under that crossover the line between economic development, but yet it's quality of life issues, versus quality of life issues as well, and getting people to live here. And that's, I mean, these are the projects, to me, that the voters are saying that they want to see us working on. So this is a way for us to actually do that with economic development funds.
Good.
I mean, I think.
I've talked with them about all the initiatives underway, and they've just asked that I keep them in the loop on all things work here, live here, all things, any kind of growth that we have, so that they can start to project numbers based on what we're seeing because of the other things that we're working on. So that too, you guys can be responsible for that as well.
Well, and I am privileged, since I actually got to attend the Greta meeting, that there was actually buzz about them paying for the first year of this, by the way, and maybe us paying for the second and third year, which is another good thing to use for their excess funds.
But we're not gonna move forward with this until, I get letters of support, and I don't mean that, I don't want anybody to feel like I'm pressuring them. I just want to be sure that we all understand that this is a community effort and that we are all a team. And even if I sign a letter of support saying I'm going to support you all just like you're going to support me, I just want us all to lift each other up. That's what it's all about.
One thing I would keep in mind from a timing standpoint, and we were just discussing this last night, the 4 largest cities in Mississippi County will have brand new mayors in January, guaranteed.
Yes.
So there's no incumbents in those. I know I'm stuck on that, right? But my point is that letters of support from the existing mayors are not helpful to you, because they're all going to be gone in January. So just keep that in mind. This is an election year, and even city council seats in the county, most of us are unopposed, but at the city level, there's a lot of competition going on. So just keep that in mind when somebody tells you that they're going to support you. They may be running for office, and they may or may not win.
How about I'll just get chamber support?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just letting you know to be aware of that.
Just so that I can at least know that, because this is gonna be in Osceola and Wilson and Manila and Zottle and Amarillo, and all of it. Everybody will be represented, and I just want to make sure, because I'm not sure what Megan wants in Osceola or Sally or who the next mayor will be.
I really can't see a new elected official standing against us.
No, I don't.
And so I basically,
right.
I would say, yeah.
The biggest thing you get into, right, the biggest thing is if people start getting a little freaked out about competition or this, that, and the other, depending on what their roles are, what their businesses are, but I can't see, now, you said Vivian had already, you've already talked to her, I guess you've already probably pitched this to Liz as well.
She was at the Retail Academy there with us, and so she's seen it, and her scenario is gonna be a little bit different, because she'll be looking for the little boutique brands and stuff, so she'll probably work closer with Retail Strategies than I will.
Okay.
Because she knows them, and she was there for the meeting, but definitely, yeah, she's on board with it.
I can't see a downside to that project either.
One of the things I'm gonna chime in on, I think this is a great, way we're going, because I did talk to, I had, talked to a gentleman, from Paragould, and I was telling him that, I drove through Paragould, and I was like, wow, Paragould has increased so much, I mean, there were, like you said, it was a Starbucks, maybe
Yeah.
that's what I saw, but I was just seeing so much retail there, and he said that they worked with a similar firm or company like this, to where you do need your county's official support, your county officials support, the letters and all that, because a lot of these companies won't come here, like, let's just say if I'm looking for, as a business owner or an investor in this county, and let's just say I'm trying to get Chick-fil-A to come here, they may not just look at what I'm gonna present, but if it's an overall of what is happening in the county as a bigger picture, they are tended to look more into it or further into it, and there's more chances of them coming.
Love this
Yes,
collaboration.
yes, so I think the collaboration of everyone is, I think is in the right direction we're moving.
I agree. But I think it's also duly noted to make sure that people are patient, because, I mean, I understand that there's some things that the first year is just really planting the seeds, and they may not see anything, and they don't need to give up too soon, because it may be that, they may make 50 phone calls before that 51 person says, yes, we'll come, and so I think everybody on board needs to kind of think about that and not get too bent out of shape if they don't see anything the first year.
How long it's taken Paragould to grow to where, they're right outside of Jonesboro, but again, we're not that far from them either, so, so it's like, it's benefiting theirs and housing developments over there and retail and all that stuff. We need to kind of see that same growth here in Mississippi County.
And as the work here, live here starts to take into effect, and I think all of this, will start to work together and
Paragould is
synergy.
kind of unique too. They've kind of ridden the coattails of Jonesboro. As Craighead County grew, Greentown grew.
The veteran community, the
Well,
people who didn't
the
wanna live,
hospital,
yeah.
really pushed a
yes,
lot
it
down that
did.
direction.
Yeah, the
And
four
then
lane,
Brooklyn.
the 4 lane in Brooklyn.
Hey Cliff, we're an hour and a half into the meeting. What else you got, sir?
Two quick things. I'm working with a gentleman to, look at taking over the grants work that Tamika was doing.
Yes, sir.
I think going forward with the retail strategies, with the increasing, amount of time that work here, live here is going to take, that Mallory won't really have time for those things. That won't be the most effective use of her time. But Tamika was working without ever charging the administrative fee, for either herself or Great River or the county. And the person I'm talking to is fully qualified, but I'll be bringing that before the court, and the P&D at the next meeting. This is just some information to pass on. The Grow Mississippi County Foundation Board met, and, due to concerns of some of the industries, well, really all of the industries, we had, accountants run the figures on what it would take to actually make the grants, the forgivable loans, tax-free to the employee individual. They had already voted to make them interest-free, but that would bring up, but they have voted now to make those grants tax-free, which would mean adding, it would still just be 10% off the price of the house. But there would be another 2.5% that would be held in escrow and made available to that employee in the year that the mortgage is forgiven, and that becomes a taxable event. I think this will move us a long way down the road with all of our industries. And of course, the way those work with Grow Mississippi County is each time a company makes a donation to the foundation, they're presented with a set of rules and procedures that this is what we're going to do with this donation. So we haven't made the first one yet, so we're not tripping over our own shoelaces here, or they're not tripping over their shoelaces. And, I think it will make the program a lot more popular, and we'll get a lot more participation from the industry. And that wraps me up, Mr. Chairman.
Well, it's a good meeting. We've had some very good presentations today. I think we've made some progress. I think the county continues to move forward. Judge, you got anything you wanna comment on? You've been very patient today.
No comment.
No comment.
Sounds like, Mr. County moving forward.
It does for real. Check these, anything else? Ms. Malley? Once again,
I just wanna say that, I know, I talk a little crazy, I don't say nothing that much, but I've been around a long time, and so I don't worry about Jonesboro no more, because I was a young boy, and we had first choice to be big at Jonesboro. And we didn't think outside the box, but now we got people now thinking outside the box. Even this court has changed, right? This table here is changing around. It's getting prepared for whatever's gonna happen, maybe next year. It may not be as easy to get money like you get now. It might not be easy to get this and this and that, because they're gonna research. And if they go and visit these people that wanna come here, along with the representative, they can get more money. And I learned when the other judge let me go to Washington, I seen McDonald there, but then we lost $1 million, unnecessary. And while we was going south all the time, because we didn't come together, but they was making a lot of money, so then they merged together. I ain't calling no name or no nothing now, I'm just saying. And then I wanted to know what happened to that $1 million that left Flower. And then the man come got me, told me what happened to the $1 million. What they didn't do. And he told me they didn't do it, they gonna take it and give it to somebody else who's doing something with it. So we lose a lot by not going places when they send stuff to the judge's office. And you know you're on the board, you know you over this and over this. If you got someone need to go and he can't go, you go and you find out who that person, that president, who you is, you wind up getting more money here. So when that big old meeting I went to, I was looking for President Bush, or whoever was there, but it wasn't. It was somebody from New Orleans, somewhere out there was over all this money. But if you had never dealt with that person, you don't know how to talk to him and get that money. If you got to know how to think outside the box, I might be talking in riddles, but whatever you but there's a lot of money that we missing. And I know, I'm looking around the board. I'm looking at the board. I'm seeing who on fire. I ain't going yet, but I'm seeing who on fire. I'm gonna tell it when I get ready to leave.
We're done.
Bye, hope you get to feel better.
thank you, Cliff. I would like to say thank you once again to, Mr. Carl for coming and the presentation information that he presented. I don't know any announcements of any future meetings, Tom, that we need to make or anything?
Yes, is there an insurance meeting Friday?
Yes.
He was talking last night like we already knew that, but I didn't know that.
Friday 1:30. Friday 1:30. So with that said, guys, without further ado, we'll call the meeting adjourned, and thank you very much.